Okay, so I'd bring you back and show you what I'm doing here. Okay, I'm using a 50 count box of brass for this experimentation. So what I've done is I've drawn myself a square here with 50 individual spaces. Yeah, I know it's not even. What's really sad is my mother was a professional artist and wrote like a Tibetan monk. Needless to say, none of that made it down to this end of the gene pool. But anyway, so here's where we start out at 26.6. So what I've done is in each compartment, we have 26.6, 27.1, 27.6, 28.1, 28.6. Okay, so each hole in there is getting its own label. So you also notice I've labeled hinge, which is the hinge on the case right here. I've labeled black is A5744. What that means, if you notice, I'm putting a black mark both across the bottom of the cartridge case and on the bullet. That way I know those are 5744 loads. I mean, there's always things that can go wrong, things can get spilled. So, but let's say I'm shooting this and I discover that this load's too hot, it's more than I want. I can take those ones with the black marks out immediately, pull the bullets, and be done with it. You always label it, it's marked primer CCI 250 here. It's Hornady brass, brand new. I've got a left here, meaning this is the left side of the box. So what I wanted to do is take you through what I do. So we're going to come over here. Now we're 28.6 was our last setting. So we're going to go to 29.1 on our, let me see if I can bring this out. There we go, 29.1 on our weight. We're going to hit our dispense button. While that's dispensing, come over here, we write 29.1, 5744, and we pull out this case. Go ahead and put the black mark on it across the bottom. Come back here and I'll bring it to this camera so you can see it. Dump in the powder. Turn the pan back to the scale. Okay, and then, like I said, I always opt on the side of safety. Okay, another black mark. Okay, that's the 29.1 load. So we go 29.6. And you could do this ahead of time, but then if you lose track of where you are, it's not going to do you any good. So we keep going. We hit, again, 29.6 is our next load. We punch that into our keypad over here. We hit dispense. It beeps, it's done. I'll come around here so you can see it a little better. .6. Okay. Put a mark there. Mark there. Okay, now we know that's our 29.6 load. And you keep doing this up to your maximum weight, and then you switch off powders. And like I said, I'll finish this up. Then we're going to change powders, and due to the length, we're probably going to break this up in a couple videos because I'm actually going to use 3 powders for this. Okay, I just finished up the 5744 loads. and I wanted you to see where we're at. It actually ended up being 15. Remember I said I go to about half with 5744 powder. That's just my starting parameters. I could still take this up to the 40, and I lost my note here, the 40 some grains we discussed as 70% of case capacity as a maximum. But again, I found that with 5744, usually somewhere around half is where the sweet spot is, although I've never done it with 375 H&H. So, as you can see, we've got 15 labeled here, 15 in here. There's black marks on all the bullets. There's black marks on the bottom of all the cases. So now we're good with that one. So what we want to do is we're going to switch cameras again here. I'm going to back you up a little bit. I had you scoot up so close so you can see the counter, but I think it'll show up from right there. So now what we do, and I'm going to do a trick question in a minute. I committed a cardinal sin for a reloader. I had two different powders on the bench at the same time. Fortunately, Trail Boss and 5744 are real easy to tell apart. So you open up the little drain spout there. You put the 5744 back in the case. Now, there's still what's in the tube and what's on top there, so I'll punch in a ridiculous number, like 100 grains, and hit dispense, and tap the thing. Now I'll get all the powder to fall out of the inside, and we're trickling powder out of the tube. Sometimes I'll pick it up at an angle here. Nope. Okay, we got it all out. Okay, 5744 is done. So what we can do now, we put that away. It's no longer on the work table. Spin our powder scale back around. Now we're going to go to a powder called Trail Boss. Everything on the loading is going to be the same. Difference with Trail Boss is you fill the cartridge case all the way up to where the bullet seats, just like 5744, but then you use 70% as a multiplier. Now Trail Boss, see if you can see in there, this stuff looks like a bunch of tiny little Cheerios. The original use for Trail Boss was to fill up the big volume cases, the 44 Special, the 45 Colt, and those types, to get the powder to fill up more with, for cowboy action shooters. Because they were shooting loads that wouldn't always ignite with these low charges of red dot and some of those powders. So Trail Boss was invented to take up this huge amount of space in these cases. For instance, I don't know if you can see this, but this is only 9 ounces in this case, in this container, whereas the rest of these are 1 pound containers. This happens to be a pound of long shot. But these containers normally hold a pound of smokeless powder, whereas with Trail Boss, it's only 9 ounces. So we do the same thing. We're going to go over here and use the other camera so it can be seen better. Let's move our paper. Oh, there was my note. It was stuck to the back of the paper. Okay, so we pour some Trail Boss into our funnel here, or our scoop. I use my fingers as kind of a guide into the case. And this is not going to work Trail Boss is really light and fluffy, so it's a little harder to work with in some respects. We'll lay the powder down and spill it. We're doing good here. Actually, that's it. Okay, it was right the first time. We'll set the powder back here out of the way. We'll change cameras again. For those of you who don't appreciate this, my partner who actually does the editing on these has threatened me with bodily harm when I do these kind of videos. Okay, so if you can read that, the case filled up to where the bullet's going to seat is 25.9, 26 grains of Trail Boss. Now the formula for that is your starting point is 70% of that number. So that's where you start, and then you use the 26 grains as your maximum. Trail Boss does not like to be compressed, so you don't want to go over that thinking more is better. So we'll get our scrap piece of paper out here again, and we'll do 26 times 0.7, which comes out 18.2 grains as a starting point. Now, they actually give 19 as a starting point on the IMR Hodgdon website. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extrapolate that up to 18.5. And I never like to use maximum if I can avoid it. So I'll probably take it up to about 23, 24 grains just to see where we end up. So again, we're going to start at 18.5 grains of Trail Boss. So TRBS is my abbreviation. Now, we're not going to use the black marker anymore. We're going to use the red marker. Okay, so we take the red marker, put a red mark across the bottom of the case. We're going to come over here and type 18.5 into our powder dispenser. Hit dispense. Now again, just like the 5744, that first panful we're going to throw away because this machine is calibrating itself now to a new powder. Might be right, might be wrong, don't care. We're going to dump it back in the hopper. We're going to hit, now that, if you just keep hitting dispense, it'll keep dispensing 18.5 grains for forever. So we just want one case full of Trail Boss. So yeah, anyway, as I was saying, while this thing's dispensing, it was originally produced to fill up these huge volumes in these old black powder cases for pistols for cowboy action shooters. Well, they discovered through experimentation that it makes a great reduced rifle smokeless powder. Necessity being the mother of invention. So a lot of the old reduced loads were with SR 4759 and 4756. Those powders have been discontinued, although I do still have about a pound of each around here. I try to hoard them for known loads. And remember, we put our red mark on the bottom of the case, red mark on the bullet. Okay, so now we're going to use 19 grains. I'm not saying that this is what you should do as far as experimenting with different loads. I'm saying this is what I do. A lot of you, or probably most of you, have to do up your loads and then go to a range to check them out. You know, I do have my own range here when we're not having the wettest winter in 10 years that I can use. And I can just shoot them as I load them, and I've been known to do that more than a few times. But a lot of you can't do this, so this is a way you can take your box of loads to the range and just experiment. So, okay, there's 19. 19.5. And oh, I forgot to do something very important. You put up here red is Trail Boss. That way you know the cartridges that have the red mark on them are filled with Trail Boss. So now we're going to go to 19.5. Go ahead and put our red mark on the bottom of the case. We're seated. Red mark on the bullet. We're done. So we go to 20 and so on until, like I said, I'm going to probably take this to 20. I'm probably going to go to 23 and a half. I think that's where I'm going to stop. So I'll go ahead and do that, and then I'll bring you back for the third powder.